What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best Warpath Void Knight build in Last Epoch Season 3. So in this guide I will first give you a quick overview of this setup, then I will explain what skills and upgrades should you focus on. After that we will go over the best gear and how to optimize it for the endgame. Then we will move into the passive tree, stats, idols, blessings and even your gameplay rotation, so that you would be able to unleash the most devastating spin to win DPS numbers possible and much more. Also, if you're interested in buying other PC or console games with 50 or 70% discount, then check out Instant Gaming. For example, I want to buy Elden Ring, so we just click on Add to Cart, then click Pay, then input our details and pay. After payment is complete, we will receive activation key, then copy and paste the key in, and it's that simple. So what are you waiting for? Click my link description and check out Instant Gaming for yourself. This build is all about non-stop spinning destruction by using the Warpath to clear battlefield and wipe out everything in the sight. By channeling Warpath we gain increased damage and AoV through the Warrior's Fury, until the spin almost covers the whole screen. The core of this build is simple: stay spinning, keep moving, and let the Void energy erupt across the map. Thanks to the Void Well passive and stacking mana, we can sustain Warpath for long durations without burning out. Then we combine this with the Devouring Orb for the Void Essence generation, Anomaly for the buffs and the Void Shred, Symbols of Hope for the permanent utility and defenses, and Abyssal of Echoes for even more damage. The synergy between the skills will turn the Void Knight into an unstoppable force, capable of farming fast and surviving the hardest endgame counters. And while the build functions well without uniques, items like the World Splitter, Siphon of Anguish and the Shattered Chains, Anchors of Oblivion and the Nihiles will push it to insane amount of DPS numbers. So let's start off with our skills. We are centering the setup on the Warpath, which serves as our main damage source. With Warrior's Fury, Warpath ramps up both the damage and the AoE the longer we channel it, though at the cost of increasing mana drain. To sustain this, we rely heavily on the Void Well, which regenerates a percentage of the maximum mana every few seconds as long as we are generating the Void Essences. We then scale the raw power through the nodes like the Maw of the Deep and the Whirling Seal, and with Abyssal Tempest, Warpath even triggers Abyssal Echoes automatically for more free damage. Then the second key skill is the Devouring Orb, which we do not manually cast. Thanks to the Abyssal Rush, it automatically is triggered while moving, and with Abyssal Juggernaut, it produces Void Essences to fuel our mana sustain. The Rending Maw and the Void Adept nodes will further crank up the damage, so while we don't press the buttons ourselves, the effects are massive in the background. Third, we got Anomaly. With the Borrowed Time, we're instantly casting it, and the Time Bubble will move us thanks to the Time Lord. This bubble grants attack speed, Void Shred and the global buffs that empower both our offense and defense. Against bosses, we make sure to hit them with the Anomaly directly, which applies Mark of the Root for even greater damage output. Fourth, we are running the Symbols of Hope, which we also don't manually cast. With the nodes like the Tetragram and the Heavenly Justice, multiple symbols will provide us with increased damage, resistances and utility. Iron Sigils in particular will bolster our survivability, and since the symbols persist, they're basically free permanent buffs once triggered. And lastly, Abyssal of Echoes. Normally this would be a self-cast spell, but with the Abyssal Tempest tied into the Warpath, we trigger it automatically while spinning. Through Embrace the Darkness and Abyssal Tendrils, we got additional scaling damage, and Nether Coating applies buffs that stay active when the Echoes is automatically cast. This gives us both burst potential and strong sustained damage across multiple enemies. Next up is the passive tree, and this is how it should be built out. In the Sentinel base tree, we grab core stats like the health, armor and resistances to form a solid defensive foundation. From there we specialize into the Void Knight, where the Void Well will become absolutely mandatory to keep the Warpath sustainable. We also invest into more intelligence, increased void damage, leech effects and cooldown recovery. Echo Knight is another key focus, giving us the ability to generate powerful echoes of our attacks when moving, which pairs perfectly with the constant spinning from the Warpath. As for the Avatar of the Regret, we skip it because the jetpacks of the higher mana cost and the lower attack speed don't fit the build. And lastly, we also spend few points into the Paladin tree for more defenses. However, if you're missing certain uniques like the Siphon of the Anguish and the World Eater, then that can be picked up for additional leech to maintain survivability. Next up, let's talk gear, because this is where the Warpath Void Knight really becomes OP. The number one priority is stacking as much maximum mana as possible, since the Void Well passive passive will restore a percentage of your mana pool every few seconds, letting you sustain Warpath for the long durations. For this reason, aim for the mana on your amulet, relics, gloves, helmet and the body armor. The single most important affix is reduced channel cost on your helmet, which could be at least tier 5, but ideally higher, otherwise you won't be able to maintain the Warrior's Fury. For weapons, World Splitter is the best in slot, giving us both a huge mana pool and a powerful void melee damage. If you don't have it yet, then use a rare two-hander with a mana and the melee crit chance, until you can farm for it. For body armor, the Titan's Heart is the tankiest option with massive health and armor, while Wings of Argenteus will trade some defense for speed farming with a permanent haste. Your Javelry is also key. Nihils on the amulet will give mana scaling and the damage, and for rings, Siphon of the Anguish will provide Void Shred, Leech and more damage. Pair it with another rare mana or the crit focus ring, or just run double siphons if you get lucky. The belt slot belongs to the Shatter Chains, which adds both survivability and damage. Other strong uniques include the Dark Stride boots for mobility, Anchor of Oblivion relic for the endurance and the armor, and high tier rare gloves with the mana, crit chance and the attack speed scaling. For the helmet slot itself, you'll want to either way craft a Leonine Great Helm or ideally a Nihil's boosted helm with a reduced channel cost, mana and resistances. So in short, the build thrives by stacking mana for sustain, void damage and the crit multiplier for scaling, and then layering in armor, endurance and resistances for survival, which all in all will give you the freedom to spin across the maps without stopping. Next up we got idols, and for them the main thing that you want to look for are modifiers that enhance void damage, increased attack speed and improve survivability through the armor and resistances. Large idols with increased damage while channeling are particularly strong, as they directly scale Warpath's output. On top of that, stacking idols with the mana and the void penetration will push your damage even higher. The exact setup may vary depending on your jobs, but the goal always is to reinforce mana sustain, critical damage scaling and defensive layers. Then for Blessing, we want to focus on both the damage and survivability. The Grand Emptiness of Ash is fantastic for boosting our critical strike multiplier, while Grand Light of the Moon will increase our critical strike chance, so we can reliably land big hits. Then Grand Resolve of Humanity shores up all of our resistances, making the build much tankier against different damage types. Then we take the Grand Vigor of Jorman for a solid boost to health, and finally the Grand Patience of the Haircare, which adds endurance and survivability for the toughest encounters. All of these combined, the blessings will synergize perfectly with our gear and the idols, by turning the Warpath Void Knight into a durable but devastating melee powerhouse. And now finally, let's talk gameplay. For farming and general AoV, the plan is simple: channel the Warpath and never stop spinning. Keep moving through the packs of enemies so that Devouring Orb automatically casts, triggering the Void Essences to sustain your mana pool. As Warpath ramps up with the Warrior's Fury, your AoV expands, wiping entire screens in seconds. Keep Anomaly up at all times, so you can stay inside the time bubble for the constant buffs, and maintain Symbols of the Hope for the passive damage and defenses. Abyssal of Echoes will automatically cast from the Warpath, so you don't need to worry about activating it manually. And then when fighting bosses, the approach is similar but more precise. Always start by hitting the boss with the Anomaly to apply Mark of the Rot, then continue spinning with the Warpath to ramp up both the damage and AoV. Make sure you stay mobile to keep generating echoes from the Echo Knight passive. Also, use your mana pool wisely. After a long channel, your Warpath will automatically stop due to the high cost. So, start again spinning to reset the Warrior's Fury and sustain your DPS. The combination of the high damage, Void Shred, the constant echoes and the Leech will ensure that you can handle even the toughest bosses with ease. So let me know what you think about this build in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my previous top 7 best builds video, where I showed even more powerful setups. So click the screen now and I'll see you in the next one.